Hello my friends, and welcome to my video on climbing game. This was requested by a whole lot of people, and I can only really slightly imagine as to why. No, I did it again! No, I'm back at the Oh! Why did I do that? Mother Oh, oh no! Like, why fucking design it this way? What is the point of this? Just to mess with you? Like, what the hell? No! 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 Ugh! I hate everything and I'm gonna f***ing kill myself. What? Why didn't it jump? Come on! It's like I'm down here now, so now I'm cucked. Like, why would they program it this way? This is so f***ed up that they would make it this way. Why? Why do this? And they make it so you phase through here, so there's physically no way to climb up. Like, why not just make this a drop into the pit? Why make you suffer the consequences of your actions by having to sit here and realize that you're a failure and there's nothing you can do about it and you have to commit suicide? Why? Like, how much of a piece of shit do you have to be to program your game that way? It's actually so astronomically f***ed up. I guess I'll die. Like, there's literally no option. Oh, f***. That's awful. That's actually awful. No! Oh, mother! You game. Just go f yourself. This is so fucking dumb. I should not have to spend 45 minutes just getting back to wherever the fuck I was earlier instead of me just fucking spawning over there so that way I can fucking try again. But no, this shitty game says, nope, do everything again in order to fucking farm you for playtime and engagement. Fuck off. Get farmed, dipshit. Oh my god. Holy. Whew, I don't even care at this point. Yeah, alright, so it's a rage game. That's why people asked me to play it. They wanted me to play it so that way I would get mad and I would yell a lot. And I did get mad and I did yell a lot. So I suppose you won. Now that said, I did end up playing the game to completion, at the very least at the time of recording this video, with me finishing all of the peaks in the game that you can climb. But I will say that I didn't go out of my way to get all of the flags and bonus content that you can unlock in the game because I just simply didn't deem it worth my time, and also felt that the game sort of failed to incentivize me to get those, which I'll be talking about slightly later. That said, after finishing the game, I actually have a decent chunk to say about it, and initially I was going to do a full-on game review of the game since I played it all the way through, but considering that I would wager to say that this game is continuing to get updates and is absolutely not finished, it's probably not fair to do a full review. So I'm just going to put out a video talking about my general thoughts, and that'll be that. Now, before I even start levying criticism towards the game, I will say that I actually did enjoy it a fair bit. Despite how angry it made me, I felt like for the most part the game is actually quite fair, and especially towards the latter end of the game, the level design starts to get a fair bit better than it is at the beginning, and once you get to those points, the game is genuinely fun, if not a little frustrating. But the thing is, just like I've said in some of my previous videos where I've talked about these sorts of almost Tower of Hell, fall down and that's it types of games, well, at the end of the day, if the risk of falling all the way down wasn't there, then a lot of the stress and accomplishment from getting to the top of the mountain just wouldn't be there. And so it ends up being one of those things where it's almost a necessary evil to get everything that you can out of a game like this. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't or shouldn't be alternative ways to play in order to offset people's skill levels when it comes to these types of games, and that's also something that we'll be getting into. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed the game. It'll be linked in the description, and if what you're looking at on screen looks fun to you, then go ahead and give it a shot. Anyways, what is Climbing Game? Well, it's pretty much exactly what the aptly title states. It's a game where you climb mountains. Not always mountains, sometimes you're climbing skyscrapers, sometimes you're climbing volcanoes, which I guess are technically mountains, but you're climbing up things nonetheless. And how you climb these different structures is where the mechanics of the game come in. And at the end of the day, the mechanics of this game are relatively simple, all things considered, but they continue to be engaging from the very beginning of the game all the way up until the end. The main mechanic of the game is grabbing onto holds. So unlike a standard obby game where you would just jump around and you'd have to make tight jumps normally just across gaps, here, you can grab onto these little holds that are on the sides of cliffs, and this is the general gameplay loop that you'll be doing. There are a couple types of holds in the game right now, and I imagine there will probably be more added later on. I wouldn't be surprised. A normal hold is simply a rock sticking out of a wall that you can grab onto. There are two other holds in the game that I can't for the life of me remember what they're called, but they're blue and green respectively, and these will drain a stamina bar while you're holding onto them. The normal holds, if you're holding onto them, will regain stamina, as well as if you're standing on the ground, you'll regain stamina. So basically it means when you grab onto one of these blue holds, then it will start draining your stamina slightly, and if you grab onto the green ones, it'll drain your stamina a lot. So if you stay on them for too long, then you're gonna fall off and, well, you're going all the way back to the bottom. This adds extra complexity because it means that you can't just take your time forever in a lot of these sections. And the final real technical hold in the game is, I believe, what is called a grip, and this type of hold has to be manually grabbed by pressing the jump button when you're up next to it. With any other hold in the game, if you're just close enough to it and looking at it, you'll automatically grab hold, but with these, you have to manually grab it, adding another level of complexity and interesting gameplay to the gameplay loop. And I suppose in technicality, there's also the slippery holds, which are really just these textures that you can hold on in their entirety, but while you're holding on, you'll slowly slide down them. Now, something that you might not expect is that the control scheme for the game itself is actually a little bit tricky. It's explained in the tutorial of the game, so I'm not going to try too hard to describe it here because it's one of those things that you almost have to sort of feel to play. But the end all be all is that if you're already holding a direction before you jump off of a hold, you'll get less height but can sometimes get further. It constantly factors into a lot of these areas and can cause you to either miss jumps or overshoot jumps depending on which keys you have held before or after jumping off of a hold. It makes a gameplay loop that would ordinarily probably be pretty flat a lot more interesting to play and adds a lot more thought into every single climb, and I appreciated it a lot, even if it is a little janky to get used to at first. Now obviously there are a couple other mechanics on display here, like the fact that there are zip lines that you can grab onto that'll take you across large areas of land, but I think the real interesting gameplay mechanic that helps a lot in terms of preventing this from being a full-on rage game and makes it more like Rage Game Light is the fact that every single stage that you'd go to in order to climb has a set number of nails that you're allowed to use. A nail is basically just a rope that you can attach to yourself at any point in the level in order to stop yourself from falling off if you miss a jump. These nails are incredibly helpful, really great to have, and not using them is almost certainly going to be a detriment to your gameplay. Generally speaking, if you see a jump that you're just not super sure that you're going to make, you can throw a nail down and practice the jump as many times as you want to before you go on to make it initially. And the fact that at any point you can go back to a nail you already placed down and pick it up means that you get the choice of either practicing the jump several times and then doing it without the safety rope, or just doing it with the safety rope and then leaving a nail behind. Most of the levels of the game have a fair amount of nails that are available to you on said levels, more than enough to practice any jumps that you might need to do. Now, while I'm generally pretty happy with the mechanics on display here, I think that there were a couple problems that I ran into with these mechanics, things that I feel like they should have seen coming and I'm not sure how they didn't. The first involves the manual grip holds, which are always brown in nature. And I think that the brown color scheme for this hold was a mistake. The reason I say that is because there are several points in the game where there are brown holds that are just normal. And so I don't know why they decided to go with brown and then make brown holds. Sure, the wood is brown, so it wouldn't make sense to have a rock colored hold, but it just leads to confusion, and I don't understand why we had such unique holds with the blue and the green versions, and then these brown versions of the holds that you need to grip onto manually are just, well, kind of confusing, and I do not think should be this color. I had a somewhat similar experience when I was climbing the skyscraper level. There's this area where you jump out onto a big signboard, and the signboard texture looks eerily similar to the ice texture that you need to grab onto in order to continue going up. This is just a point of confusion that I don't understand why it's here. Just make the sign not this color, problem solved. But they didn't do that, so it just looks confusing and is confusing for no reason. And then, in terms of the nails mechanic, while I think that this is generally pretty well done, my only main criticism is the fact that there's a couple levels in the game where there are areas that require you to use nails in order to get past. I'm not entirely sure what happens to these areas if you get here with no nails left, but if the answer is you're just screwed and have to reset the whole level, that feels really shitty. I don't really think that it makes sense to have to be constantly second guessing whether or not you're using these mechanics because you might get soft locked later on. Like, come on, that just doesn't make sense. So I've mostly been talking about mechanics. Now I think it's a good time to get into the level design itself, because most of the time, I think the level design is actually very well done. In the vast majority of the maps, the level design is super neat in the fact that it constantly brings you over top of other areas of the map while you're playing, and so a lot of the time, if you do end up making a mistake and falling off, you might not necessarily fall all the way down. You might fall and catch yourself on a ledge, and I think that's really neat. It consistently varies between areas where you know if you fall, you're going all the way to the bottom, as well as areas where it's a little bit safer because if you fall, you're only going to be losing a little bit of progress. And these areas of levity where you know that you're not going to fall all the way down really help in making it so that way it's just not an endlessly stressful experience from start to finish. And it also amplifies those moments where you can fall all the way down way more. So overall, on the whole, I think the level design is really good. That said, there were a couple problems that I ran into that, well, let's just say they pissed me off a little bit. I feel like there was some sort of sadistic mastermind behind some of these levels in this game, because there are several points of the game where you can fall into areas of the game where your only choice is to reset the level or fall down even further. And I just have to question why in the hell these soft lock areas of the game even exist at all. Genuinely, like, look at this area on the volcano level. You fall down here, and the game could have just given a handhold in order to get you back up here. Or it could have just made this little area not exist. So if you fell here, you would fall into the lava, reset the level. But no, instead it taunts you by putting you in this area where you're completely screwed. There's no way out of here. You're done. But it gives you that little inkling of hope that maybe I won't have to reset to the beginning. And that's fucked up. The same shit can happen constantly on the skyscraper level. Because the skyscraper level is just that, a skyscraper, it has a whole lot of floors in it. And if at any point you fall down onto one of the floors that you're not technically supposed to be on, it then quickly becomes a crapshoot on where you're supposed to fall down in order to get back on track. Because 80% of the floors that you can fall onto have no way of getting back into the game. There just isn't one other than falling down some more. So I'm just wandering around looking for potential areas to go out. There's some broken windows and things that seem like maybe they'll get you back in it, but no, none of the areas will. You have to fall down somewhere. I just don't understand why they felt the need to even have these areas to begin with if you're not gonna be able to do shit when you get stuck there. I don't know, I'm sure it's a nitpick and I'm sure people are gonna tell me I'm wrong in the comments, but I really don't think I am. It's so awkward whenever one of these things happens and it just makes the game feel unfinished. It makes you feel like you're in an area that you're just not supposed to be in, but the game doesn't stop you. It just lets you go there and then get stuck. Now, on another topic when it came to level design, I think we can talk about the flag system in the game because I think this is a total failure as of right now. Alright, so maybe not a total failure, but mostly a failure. As it stands right now, the main goal of whatever level you're playing is to get to the top of it. Once you get there, you'll get money that's allocated based on whatever difficulty of the level that you're climbing, and you can use the money to unlock new levels. Now the thing is, while you're climbing any certain level, there are different bonus flags that you can get to, and when you do get to those different bonus flags, you get like $25. Seriously guys, $25? Are you kidding me? Just for reference, it can cost upwards of $10,000 in order to unlock a new level, and there's maybe 2 or 3 flags per level. Why the hell is the payout for these presumably one-time use flag collectibles so awful? Why? Especially when a lot of these areas, if you screw it up, means you're falling all the way to the bottom. Why in God's name would you take such an extra risk for basically nothing? How did this happen? I really legitimately just don't know. I feel like there's no reason that these shouldn't have been giving out a fair amount of money per reaching of these flags because, well, again, it's bonus content that presents more risk just for the idea of going for it. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense. And I suppose the final thing that's important for me to talk about here is I think that the accessibility in this game is pretty miserable and could probably use a lot of work. At the end of the game, this game is supposed to be a rage game, it's supposed to be hard, you know, whatever. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably going to try to play this and just quit very early on without having the ability to experience most of the game. And that really sucks. Maybe it's a tall ask, but I think that there should be multiple difficulty settings for each level of the game. Maybe one difficulty setting that literally just doesn't reward you money at all, or at the very least is way less than the current system. And that area has checkpoints at any given point while you're climbing up the area. So that way, if someone wants to play the game more casually and doesn't want to constantly fall all the way down and never have the chance of even getting to see the rest of the level, actually has the chance to do so. Imagine a 3 difficulty system where easy mode effectively allows you to put down save states wherever you're going. So at any point you can save and reload, basically making it trivial to complete a level, but you barely get any money for completing it. Medium has preset checkpoints in the level, so that way you can't place checkpoints everywhere, but while you're climbing up, you're always making progress, and if you fall down, you don't fall all the way down. You can just reset to your checkpoint. And then of course, hard mode is the current difficulty of the game. No checkpoints, all you got is your nails, get to the top, no holds barred. I know people always get on my ass whenever I talk about this accessibility stuff, but more people being able to enjoy games is better, even if you don't think that the way that they're playing is the quote-unquote correct way to play. I'm sure this won't happen, but I think it would be great for a lot of people on the Roblox platform, especially considering that there's a lot of people on here who simply just aren't as good as others. While I might be able to get to the end of the game and push through all of the frustration, there's plenty of people out there who can't and would really appreciate checkpoints in the levels. It seems like they're almost sort of going that route anyway to an extent, with the final level of the game that's most recently added having shortcuts that'll make it so that way if you get to a certain part of the level, you can skip a large portion, and I think these sorts of shortcuts are great for the game as a whole. But I still think having an easier difficulty earlier on in order to make sure that people don't just immediately rage quit and drop the game would be good for everyone. Anyways, really I think that's mostly all I had to say here. Despite the anger, the game was enjoyable, and I think it succeeds at accomplishing what it set out to do. And because of that, there's only so much that I have to say. With all of that said, I'm wrapping up here. I'm currently dealing with the fallout of YouTube making my life really difficult with that gambling video from earlier, and I'm probably gonna have to remake the whole thing. Go figure. Anyways, that's not relevant. If you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day now wherever you are, and see you guys next time.